Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon, and I'm a lifetime Florida State Seminole fan.
I am Chris, and I am a nervous Gator fan.
We are putting aside our differences as rivals to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State, where it is sunny in theory, but a little bit cloudy with the forecast of a season. However, Chris, it is early August. We did want to give everybody our reactions to some of the schedules that have been released for the new 2020 season. So go right ahead. The Florida Gators have a couple new opponents on the schedule.
Yeah, we're this is developing, of course, and we still in hopes that there is a football season. But
Right.
the SEC had to reshuffle a little bit, and so they decided to go to a 10-game conference only schedule. So that means that everyone plays everybody in their division. Keep the two other, say if you're in the East, you keep the two West, and then you're going to add two more West for the Gators.
Okay.
And so we have the annual battle with LSU, which we have home. We're already going to Ole Miss. So they kind of had their reveal on Friday, and Florida gets Arkansas and Texas A&M. At A&M and or hosting Arkansas. And I think a lot of Gator fans are pleased with this schedule because early on, when it was announced that they would go to 10 games, everyone the going theory was, well, you're going to play your next two scheduled rotating West games. Last year, I forgot. I'm drawing a blank. Who was it last year? Mississippi State.
Mississippi State was either 1 or 2 years ago. I can't remember.
2 years ago. Man, who did we have? Auburn. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
It was Auburn. This year was Ole Miss. So the next two would have been Alabama and A&M. So that was the going theory, was that's who we thought we were going to get. So we thought Alabama and A&M were the next one. So when we heard Arkansas and A&M, we're like, whew, big relief. And now A&M's pretty good, and they're on the rise. I like Kellen Mond, and then obviously Jimbo can coach, so they're pretty good. And going to Kyle Field is tough, but with these new restrictions on seating and stuff, it might not be the same. But at A&M and hosting Arkansas. And I think if you ask your average Gator fan, they're going to say, hey, I like our chances because our schedule was pretty good, lined up pretty good. And these are winnable games, especially at Arkansas coming to us and at A&M. Definitely winnable games. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, winnable. The Arkansas one, obviously that's a pretty easy win for Florida.
Yeah.
Going to Kyle Field, if that game's in Gainesville, I take Gators easily. At this point, we don't know the dates. It really kind of depends on where that game falls, I guess.
Right.
If you get them early, shouldn't be a problem. But if you're playing in, November or late October, and it's sandwiched between around LSU, Georgia, that could get tricky.
Yeah, everyone's going to find. I mean, everyone has their tough stretch, and we're probably going to find ours. But like I said earlier, though, like, a normal game at Kyle Field is very intimidating. I don't know what it's going to be like now. As of now, they plan on being SEC said 50% capacity. It changes things a little bit. You know what it kind of reminds me of? As of right now, it reminds me a little bit of like the World Cup. Because Friday, because a couple weeks ago they said they're going to do this, and then Friday they released who gets who draws who, and it was kind of that World Cup feel. We're going to go play a World Cup, round, almost like a round robin kind of deal, to see who is the champion. So it was kind of a little bit exciting on Friday when they were releasing it and seeing who gets who, and some teams like Missouri and Arkansas got stiffed, man. They got the shaft. But I think Florida likes it. Cool storylines, though. I mean, obviously, with Arkansas, we have the storyline of Felipe Franks coming back to the Swamp.
Yeah.
Didn't think he would ever play in the Swamp again. And then here he is. And so I hope that the Gator fans that are there give him a round of applause, give him a standing ovation, because he deserves it. He did a lot for this school, and yeah, he was frustrating at times, and he ran his mouth sometimes, and he was hot and cold. But he was here during the tough times of McElwain, and really started laying the foundation when Mullen came in. So he deserves some credit and respect. But interesting to see that, and obviously Florida's history with Jimbo with A&M. I mean, he's had our number at Florida State. So yep. There's definitely we definitely want to beat him. I'm curious, how do you feel about A&M Florida? Who are you going to go for? Because obviously Jimbo was your coach, but maybe the feelings are still raw of how he did y'all. He's going against Florida, so I'd assume you'd go for A&M. But what are your thoughts on that matchup?
It's an interesting question. I'd probably take A&M in that one. I mean, I can't ever justify hoping the Gators win, right. But it's one of those things like, yeah, go refs, But yeah, I guess I would take A&M there. I agree with you. Kellen Mond has been interesting. Jimbo can coach. It is kind of funny to see him not have great success yet, but also it takes time. This is only year 3 or 4 for him. And you are in the toughest conference and toughest division, so I got to give him a break somewhere.
That's where I was going with that one. I believe, if my memory serves me right, I think both of those games are revenge games, because the last time we played Arkansas, we got ran out of the building. It was at Arkansas.
Oh, really?
And then, yeah. And then A&M was in the swamp, and that was a close game, but A&M beat us there. That's when we wore those really disgusting Gator green jerseys.
Oh,
yeah. Everyone's trying to forget that game.
Nice.
Not because of the score, mainly because of the uniforms, but
yeah. I was wondering. It's probably been a few years since you played either one of these teams, right?
Right. So that was the last time we played them. So I like it. I like the games that we drew, and I'm excited. I still think that we have a really good shot of winning the East. It all comes down to Georgia still.
Sure.
I think you can. It's interesting. I think you can lose a game or two and still make it to the championship game because of who everyone else faces. They face tough opponents too. They're playing the SEC. I think, though, with just playing SEC, depth is really key. Depth is key because it's tough competition. Even Arkansas, they're going to hit harder than your divisional team from the north. It's just different. So I think depth, and you're just going to have to be lucky and not get a key injury. And you're going to have to, a new wrinkle, and just be lucky that a player doesn't have the virus.
Right.
I'm interested to see how that. I believe they said they're gonna. I believe the SEC said they're gonna have a third party come in and test players 6 days and 3 days out before games.
Okay, I heard something about twice a week, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So obviously you're gonna have injuries, ACLs and stuff like that, but now you're gonna have this little wrinkle in. Does your starting quarterback go down with the coronavirus, right?
Sure. So
that I do like Florida's depth in a lot of places at quarterback. I really like Emory Jones as our backup. There's some places on the defense I like and on the offense as well. So depth is really going to be interesting to see, and players that you might have. Maybe redshirted or planning on redshirting might have to step up and burn a red shirt because someone's out with the virus, So interesting stuff, but overall I like Florida's draw, and I like their schedule.
Okay. Yep. So let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. The most notable team not on the schedule for UF.
Yeah.
Florida State.
Yep.
It's very clear the ACC wanted this game played. They wanted to keep all 4 matchups. Florida State, Florida, Georgia Tech, Georgia, South Carolina, Clemson, and Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And the SEC shocked people by saying we're going to play conference only.
Yeah, man. I did not
So,
think that would happen, honestly, from the SEC. I didn't think it would happen.
yeah. So the first time in 62 years, as of right now, Florida would not be playing. Rumors are swirling that the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, is trying to figure out some way to make the game happen. And I have no idea how that would look. But I, as a Florida State fan, I obviously want this game played. I know we're not going to win it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you feel the same way.
I want to play because I like our chances.
Of course.
To be honest.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even if I didn't like our chances, it's Florida State. Anything can happen, love the rivalry. I mean, because of that rivalry, this podcast exists.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that's one of the interesting things about even our friendship is that rivalry. And, yeah, it stinks. It really stinks that we won't be able to play each other. I mean, there's still a glimmer of hope, but it's tough. I mean, I was wearing my Gator shirt the other day, and some random guy stopped me and said, "How do you feel about not playing Florida State?"
Yep.
And I was like,
it
really stinks, man. It really does. Yeah, that's so tough. It's not real, man. None of this is real. This is all. I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow and make this last 5 months was just a horrible dream.
I know, right?
College football's tomorrow. That's.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It's been a hazy year for sure, and we're talking about what's been announced, and we're just hoping it actually happens. And other sports have had some struggles with this, and I don't know how baseball will play into all of this, but
yeah,
let's continue to hope that the season happens.
Right.
We were talking about this earlier. The SEC hasn't announced the dates yet of your season, but Florida State has released their schedule. If we want to take a couple minutes just to go over theirs really quick.
Yeah.
So the ACC is doing a 10+1 schedule here. So 10 conference games, 1 non-conference. Obviously, the hope was to keep the SEC games and then some of the other non-conference ones over other schools. I'll talk about that in a second. So Florida State and all the other schools are not going to be playing in divisions this year. That's the one thing difference in the SEC. No divisions. The top 2 winning percentage teams in the conference would play each other in the title game. And this year, Clemson will be playing as an ACC member. Just
Notre
for
Dame?
2020. Just Notre Dame, yeah. What did I say? Clemson, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Clemson too.
But they will be playing. They will be in the ACC. You're right.
Correct. They already had a contract to play 5 a year, and so they're just going to join as a member for this season. And I don't think there's any surprise they're going to be playing Clemson in the title game. There is a pretty big drop-off after Clemson anyway. I don't know. There's some teams like Miami. They have a pretty decent shot if they can get their offense going to maybe push for it. But we'll talk about them later. So Florida State will end up adding Georgia Tech, adding Notre Dame, and adding Virginia. And adding Duke. So here's how the schedule falls out. We start the season with Georgia Tech. Then we played Samford. We actually get a Division II team back that we were scheduled to play already. Then we play at Miami. Then a bye week at Notre Dame. Hosts North Carolina. Sorry, that's another team we added. My apologies. You host Louisville at Pittsburgh. In North Carolina State, Clemson, Virginia, and Duke.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we mostly agree the early part of the schedule is pretty easy. So, hey, we're going to start off 2-0. Georgia Tech is going to be the worst team in the ACC.
Okay.
They may only win 3 games. Samford's an easy win. I do like getting Miami early. Maybe they haven't figured out some things. Florida State's strength is going to be the defense this year.
Okay.
And quarterback is still a big question mark. So if we were to catch Miami before, Derek King figures out how to get the offense running, or historically when Florida State plays Miami early in the season, it's just a kind of a mess anyway.
Right.
So maybe we get a couple lucky bounces in an ugly game and we win, we sneak out a victory. I think it's pretty easy to say we start off 2-0. Miami have better chances with we're going to lose Notre Dame, you're going to lose Clemson. I think we're going to lose to North Carolina. They're kind of on the rise, and I guess you can say it's a coin flip game. We haven't played them in several years. I can't even
Right.
remember last time. I think the last time we hosted them at home was probably the game where we lost on a last-second field goal to them, like 2016-ish.
Okay.
So that would be, just like you were saying earlier with the Gators, kind of a revenge game, if you will.
Yeah.
We do have Louisville. We do play Pitt after a bye week, and that was at home. So, maybe that's a game that's more winnable than it used to be. You figure you got to probably beat NC State. Virginia is going to have some drop-off. I was initially scared, but I was like, well, Perkins is gone, and they got to travel. They don't have the team that they had last year, so that's probably winnable. And then Florida State, trivia fact for you, Chris, if anyone asks, Florida State has never lost to Duke football.
Really? Okay.
Never. In fact, when we first joined, we played them every year. After we split to divisions, they went to the other side. But, we've never lost to the Blue Devils. So I would imagine that streak continues too.
You think, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's interesting because everyone's having to deal with the same thing, switching up. And obviously at the beginning of the season, you kind of know a little bit about your teams and other teams. But this one, everyone, who knows? Who knows what everyone's going through and what's going to change? We're all going through the same stuff of no spring games, having to do most of your workouts and training by yourself. Who's going to respond better, right?
Yep.
You can have a more talented team, but this one other team is responding better. And interesting, but yeah, early on that Miami bye week, Notre Dame and North Carolina stretch is going to be. You'll see. You'll learn a lot from FSU then.
Yep.
That's just you get some easy ones under the belt there, which is going to be good for Norvell. But that stretch early after that is tough. And hopefully you can round it off at the end there with NC State, Virginia, and Duke victories. But middle of the season there.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough stretch. I struggle to see a winning record. I struggle to see 6 wins. I really do.
Really?
Yep. There's some toss-ups, but we really just don't have depth yet. So any kind of possible outbreak or injury, and we could be in trouble again.
Right.
We're just not there.
And you're seeing this too, which we'll get into with Miami. Some players are opting out of the season.
Correct. Yeah. Our star, Marvin Wilson and Tamari and Terry, as they go, the team goes. We can probably say with confidence. They have both said unequivocally they came back to play and win. So they plan on playing. But yes, a lot of players. This is going everywhere. I think even the New England Patriots had like a handful of guys not come back. So a lot of players are saying, I'd rather not risk it. I'm just going to pass. So actually that Miami game, because their best defensive tackle is not going to play, that actually gives me a little bit more hope. Right.
And, between now and kickoff, things can change even more with players. And I forgot to mention it when looking at Florida's schedule, but ACC starts, September 12th, I believe? Florida doesn't start, the SEC, doesn't start until like 2 weeks after.
Oh.
They're starting later. And their seasons go like the SEC championship game is like, I want to say December 19th, something like that.
Okay.
They're starting a little bit later than most.
And Florida State did have 2 bye weeks in there, and I would assume that's to give some flexibility to shuffle things around.
Right.
I was actually just checking Twitter. Apparently, there have been 27 Major League Baseball games called off. A 3-game series between the Pirates and Cardinals were just canceled. So, literally every day. We can record this, and then 48 hours later, everything could change.
Right.
It is... it's scary to see how this is all happening, honestly. So it's probably why you don't hear as much excitement in my voice, because I'm like, I don't know how excited I should really get about all of this.
I'm getting every day. I'm more and more pessimistic. I'll believe it when I see it, but even when I see it, how long will it last?
Right. And the ACC made a careful decision. They said it's not who has the best record. It's about who has the best winning percentage. I think they're prepared for, we made it through 6 or 7 games. The remaining 2, let's just decide who plays in the title game and get that game done.
Right.
And it may be in a very, very abbreviated season.
So you want easier games early.
Which, yes, that's like with Florida State, the first two for sure. And, we don't play the middle stretch. Obviously, I want to play every single game on the schedule. But you would have rather had the end easy games, like the Virginia Duke, at the front, too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and with the SEC, it was speculation, but nothing is solid. Everyone's going to play the first 5 weeks, and everyone gets a bye the 6 weeks, and everyone plays 5 more weeks, then a bye, and then the championship game.
Oh, okay.
That's not official. That's niche. People were just reports were saying, but I mean, it could all change tomorrow, so that should be interesting. But with the SEC schedule, they were trying to see who had interdivisional games and trying to make it as fair as possible. So if you had 2 tough, like West opponents, they're going to give you 2 easy ones or try to balance it out. But I'm interested do you know how the ACC came up with was it just who was next, or?
I don't know, because like when I revisited it just now, I was like, man, this is very different than I thought, because we got rid of like Syracuse, Boston College. We usually play them every year. I mean, at first I thought it was based on geography, but Florida State has to go to Miami, to Notre Dame, on the road. Virginia, I forget. But, so like where actually going doesn't make any sense either.
Right. I'm thinking big picture, though. I think we might have talked about this off air, but big picture, does this get Notre Dame to stay in a conference?
That's an interesting point. I think most people are split on this. I actually heard some media say, hey, I think the ACC did the right thing by not pressuring Notre Dame. Right. What I did find out, though, these are some facts, is after, I think, this 5-year contract, or maybe it's 10 years, of the Notre Dame playing ACC 5 times every year, the ACC gets exclusivity rights to discuss them joining then. So, I don't know, it's maybe 2030 or something. It certainly helped that they had the contract going, because as we found out, UConn, who just went independent, is having to cancel their whole year because, I mean, A, they as an independent, you have to travel a ton, and that hampers right here. But also, B, you don't have the security of a conference, right? And Notre Dame at least had something going, so they were able to kind of squeeze over for a year.
Right. And your teams, I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast, but I'm really curious to see about lower division teams, because they make a lot of their money playing the Power 5, and now that if you're SEC and you're just shutting down, and just playing SEC games, say like a team like Florida State's playing like Samford,
right?
They need that game. They need Florida State because. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Florida State's paying a lot for Samford, and that's going to not just fund their football, but other athletics, too. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious to see the ripple effect of that, how many schools are going to shut down football, shut down athletics. Because, I mean, Florida and Florida State, they can survive, but not everyone can survive this.
Right.
You miss a year of paychecks, they're not going to survive that.
Yeah, it's a scary territory.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a good little segue there, Chris. We can talk about some of the other schools. Let's talk about Miami first, I guess, and then we'll transfer over to like the American teams. Yeah,
Miami, their non-conference as of now is UAB, and I mean they have some. I mean, they started at Louisville, then Florida State, obviously the third week. They have the bye week, and then Clemson and Pitt. So that's a tough stretch, too. About the same time as Florida State's tough stretch.
Yeah.
Virginia, and another bye week, and then NC State, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, North Carolina. At Virginia Tech, not easy. Rounding it off with North Carolina. It's a tough one. But, man, the Florida State bye week Clemson, that's a rough
Yep.
rough patch there. And even like you get Pitt and then Virginia following. Virginia they were pretty good last year. Obviously, there's drop off, but but like we alluded to, Greg Rousseau, their best defensive player, he's opting out.
Yep.
And I'm interested, but Diaz is he's a defensive coach, so I don't know if they're going to miss him too much. But I think you said it earlier, King, if he gets fits in to the offense pretty quick, they could be dangerous. Because that was I think one of their biggest issues last year. They didn't know who was their quarterback. Couldn't figure it out. Couldn't have any consistency there. If they get consistency at the quarterback, I think the defense will do enough, even with Rousseau not being there. They can make some noise.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Clemson, Notre Dame, you're looking at it, they should be the two that should be playing in the title game.
But I have full confidence. Miami finished third or fourth in the ACC this year. I really think that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, that is saying that's a little bit of, they're better, and also the ACC is just not that great right now.
Yeah.
It's a little both.
Right. Yeah, this is crazy. So the ACC championship game, that's Charlotte. Is that where it's at?
Yeah, it's gonna be either December 12th or December 19th, and it will still be in Charlotte.
Okay. Yep. Gotcha.
And then based on winning percentage in the conference.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I was talking to the wife, and I was like, I kind of want to go to a Miami game because I highly doubt I'm going to go to a Florida game this year with all the restrictions, and if they go to 50% capacity, like, what are the chances I'm going to get a ticket and going up there? I might actually go to a Miami game or two just to get my fix. You know?
Okay. I understand. We forgive that.
Yeah.
I understand it.
I mean, I'm probably rooting against Miami.
Oh, that's of course.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to get some kind of football.
Don't we all?
I just give me some college football. Just in any form, just give it to me.
Please. We're all in that boat. Believe me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like Miami's chances. And yeah, they've got a chance to really make some noise this season. So we'll see if that actually happens. They've also had that opportunity several times recently, and no offense, I'm not trying to pick at them, but it just hasn't been put together for some reason.
Yeah.
This actually could be the year.
Yeah, I think that the playing field is maybe I'm wrong on this, maybe evened out a little bit. But we'll see. Because everyone has to deal with so much stuff, and a lot of it is going to just depend on luck.
Yes.
Just luck that your team, your star player, doesn't get the virus, or maybe your backup who you didn't realize it was so important, or your whole defensive line is hanging out together and they get it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So a lot is going to be about luck. But what do you got on? What do you know about the other teams like FAU and UCF? Because I've only been following the Power 5 stuff because it changes so much. I really haven't kept up with many schools outside of the SEC and ACC.
Sure. So it has definitely been a moving target, and I think that the Group of Five has been careful, and they're trying to wait out everything that the Power 5, is doing, just to kind of make their decision a little easier for them.
Right.
So, let me state what we do know. The AAC has announced an 8+4 schedule for this year. Okay. So they're going to play 8 conference games and then 4 non-conference. Obviously, you were talking about this earlier, and we already know this to be true. These Group of 5 teams really have to have those Power 5 teams to keep their budget afloat.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that they're going to still try to carve out a good chunk of their schedule, in fact, a third of it, to play those games.
Right.
So there were rumors back and forth. I can't leave the state, have to play locally. So the UCFs were like, okay, well, let's play Florida State, since the Gators are SEC only. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, it doesn't happen that easily. These kind of contracts take years to happen. And they were already contracted to play 2 ACC teams, Georgia Tech and North Carolina, this year. So what we do know is the Georgia Tech game is still on. UCF will be traveling to Atlanta probably early in the year. I think that is confirmed to be Georgia Tech's first or second game, which means they play Florida State than UCF. Or vice versa, however it ends up playing out. So that's going to be a rough start for the Yellow Jackets. They're going to lose both of those. UCF, I believe they're still working on keeping as many of the same opponents that they had for this year, but I don't know that it's confirmed. So obviously South Florida is kind of in the same boat because they're in the same division. They're trying to keep those as much as possible. So 8+4 for the Central Florida schools.
Okay. Man, oh man. Man.
So let's see. Just confirming here. The Bulls have Texas. Oh boy. Nevada. So I guess those two are the non-conference. They play Florida Atlantic, Cincinnati, East Carolina. Hey, your boys, the Pirates.
Okay.
Temple, Tulsa, Memphis, Houston, Navy, and then UCF is still on the schedule. I think they're also currently scheduled to be Bethune-Cookman. That's another thing that's confusing me is I really thought that the D2 schools had foregone their seasons, and then I see them popping back up again. So I really don't know what to believe at this point. I know FAMU, unfortunately, has decided to cancel their season.
Yeah, right.
And, other schools will follow suit. But I see some re-adding that D1 game. Maybe they changed their mind. So it's hard to know. So that's as much as I know. I know that sounded very unconfident, but there you go.
There's more than I knew. It's tough to. It's like hitting a moving target. Like
exactly.
It's tough, but we're always hoping that it just happens. And like I said, Friday I got it was actually a lot of fun knowing it was about to drop. I was watching all week because they said last week, hey, the schedule's going to drop, but they never said when. And then Friday at 5, they're like, it's dropping in an hour. And this is the first time in a long time I watched some live TV as it was as they're releasing the schedules, and it's going to be weird because I know some conferences and schools are going to be starting their season early September, and then summer and mid-September. SEC are as of now are starting late September, so it's like a slow trickle effect of football. And I mean, I've even heard talks of if we don't have it in the fall, it all being moved to the spring. And I'm like, just give me football. Just somebody go in there. Let's call the president and just make a decision. I don't know how the laws work and stuff, but just somebody make a phone call and just mandate we have college football. For my personal selfish reasons, someone make that call.
Yes. Awesome. I'm with you. I'll have to have it as well.
Yeah, if anyone's afraid to make that call, call me. I'll make it. I'm making it right now, actually. We're going to start football tomorrow, actually. We're playing tomorrow. Dear USA, we are starting college football tomorrow.
It's happening.
So you guys figure out the rest, but tomorrow. So that is where we're at.
Yep.
This constant state of limbo. And yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Wish we had more.
No, that's really it. We don't have any kind of inside track, unfortunately, guys. But if we did, we'd certainly pass along to you first. To round out the rest of the schools, Chris, I think there just really hasn't been any information out.
Yeah.
We know FAU's playing South Florida. We know FIU was scheduled to play UCF, and they're probably going to try and keep that game. But Conference USA, Sun Belt, they haven't made any decisions. The MAC said they're not playing the fall. So some of this stuff we're just kind of waiting on too.
Right.
And the Mountain West, I'm not sure where they were at. I know Boise had a really bad outbreak, and they were supposed to play Florida State this year, and that game didn't obviously happen.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see Florida State go to the blue turf, man.
I think eventually it will happen, by the way.
Yeah.
And it probably would have been a loss this year, so it's not a crazy terrible thing. The one game I really wanted to keep was West Virginia, to be honest.
Yeah.
That was going to be the opening weekend in Atlanta, and so we don't have that one.
Y'all had some good non-conference games. Man.
Yeah, we did. Obviously, the Gators is always a good one. We were going to play West Virginia and Atlanta, Boise State at Boise, and then our Samford game we ended up keeping. So I think what they have, obviously the 10+1 was set up so they could play the SEC teams. Okay. And that didn't happen. The Big 12, I believe, as of this moment, is still trying to do a +1 because they only have 10 teams, so you can only play 9 conference games. Otherwise, you're going to repeat one.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing a 9+1. So I was kind of hoping. I was like, hey, well, we can still keep West Virginia. Could that be a fun one?
Yeah.
No dice.
I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Say it goes forward, and majority of it's in conference. How does the voting for the playoff work? Because I think some of the good. I don't know which way to go with this, but I think it was some of the good of the non-conference games was that you had, say you had sort of a scenario like Clemson and Florida are, neck and neck for third and fourth spot or whatever. Well, you have a common opponent in South Carolina. You have a common opponent in Florida State, and that kind of maybe might help you determine. Like, how do you think this factors into the playoffs? Or like, tweak the playoffs? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so let me start with this. There is no way that this year is not going to have no controversy. There is going to be ripples, no matter how they decide it. Let me start with that.
Do you think it's just going to be an asterisk?
I probably have to do that, right?
Yeah.
It is be an interesting test, though, because all these, we kind of got out of hand. I think we can all agree with these non-conference games where we're like, hey, this year I think Oregon was going to play Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then you had all these season openers. Florida State was due West Virginia.
Right.
All this other nonsense that, across the nation, we have to have these 6 marquee games where Auburn plays Oregon and all this other stuff. So now we got to look back and say, you know what does the season look like without it? So that's kind of a good measure, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, it's really going to heavily rely on voting. There's going to be less on the field to go with. I'm also going with the assumption here that we don't get all games played.
Okay.
So if you don't, let's just say, doomsday scenario, you only get through 5 or 6, you probably still have 10 teams undefeated.
Right.
At that point. And there's not going to be any real way to put in just 4.
Yeah.
Without other people saying we had a shot or we were going to do this or, maybe one of those games we lost to one of the teams that's undefeated, deserve a chance. So it's going to heavily rely on voting for sure. And, I actually really not a fan of preseason polls, unless it's Phil Steele. He can do no wrong. Other than that, this year that actually might play a huge factor and be important.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because say you're ranked preseason 10th, you're like, oh, well, we're not in the top 4, but there's a lot of games to be played, and you know how it works out. But, I mean, if you're 12th, you got to be worried, because you might not finish. And it's interesting. Yeah, because say Clemson goes on and they win the national championship, but, I think there's a lot of people who legitimately can say, yeah, it doesn't really count. Say Florida goes and wins it all. Yeah, I'm gonna take it, but if someone says it wasn't a real championship, I get it. It's going to be an interesting. I say you call this whatever it is. Doesn't go on the books on the 2020 national champion. You're the COVID Cup champion. You won the COVID Cup, and then we're going to resume next year.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a World Cup. Like, it's not your normal, or the Olympics,
Right.
You play for a special time, then you go back to your normal regular seasons. I think that's how I'm going to view it.
It's like anybody who is from Canada. You're like, oh, Jesse Palmer, he's from Canada. We always have to add that on there. I'm not sure why that is, by the way. Why do we always have Rick Moranis? Oh, he's Canadian. Cool. All right. But it's going to be like 2020. Who was a national champion? Oh, it was Clemson, but it was COVID-19 year. So
yeah, right. So it's always going to be this special yet, I don't know, it's just strange.
Yep.
Very strange. But here's to football, though. Here's to college football, and here's to it really happening.
Yes.
Even if it's strange and weird, I'll take it.
Absolutely. Yep. I want it as well.
Yeah.
Man. Well, I didn't have any other thoughts unless there were any final things you wanted to add, Chris.
That is it. That is it. I mean, we could probably make a whole other episode tomorrow because all the news that'll probably drop.
Right.
But as of right now, that is it for me.
Yeah, cool. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on it, and we're right there with you. The agony of waiting and just seeing what happens here. Chris, remind fans how they can reach out to us with their thoughts on the season and how the schedules play out.
FloridaFocusPodcast.com.
Super easy.
Yep.
And whatever podcast player of choice you use, a rating, preferably 5-star, would be wonderful.
Yep. Please.
Well, thanks always for listening. This is Brandon saying, go Knowles.
Go Gators.